Hello everyone and welcome back to Black Blaze Gaming. My name is Dakota and this is a video I've already recorded once, and I didn't want to have to be making this video to begin with, but I feel like the conversation around the updates to coming to Elder Scrolls in the Update 35, Lost Depths DLC patch have been a bit silly on both ends of the argument, on both ends of the spectrum. When you get into these big major combat and gameplay changes that where ZeniMax actually announces what their intentions are for these major overhauls to the combat system, you get a lot of like doomsday type thinking. A lot of people are like, oh, this is the death of the game. This is the fucking Antichrist, which of course spurs the pendulum in the other direction way too far, who are like, wow, fuck off, shut up, it doesn't mean anything, the changes don't matter, it's whatever, right? And now you have another interesting side of the extreme where it's like, where people are saying that ZeniMax is pulling some sort of bait and switch where they sold us one game and now they're completely transforming it into a different game, which is a bit weird when you think about it. ESO doesn't strike me as having a particular vision for what its combat, like it never, like from launch, never really had a particular vision for what its actual combat was supposed to be like and how it's supposed to feel and how it's supposed to play into the end game. Because if you remember, when Elder Scrolls Online first came out, it didn't have an end game. It didn't really have, like, Craglorn wasn't there. We didn't have the trials. We didn't have that we didn't have veteran dungeons. So it's hard to say that it's a bait and switch either. Also, I don't know why any developer would ever do that. I've never seen that before personally. I mean, maybe somebody can fill me in the comments on some game where they've completely patched it into a totally different product. And I mean like genuinely different product. Like it went from being a first-person shooter into a real-time strategy. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but you get the point. Like something where it's genuinely just not the same game at all. I wanted to make this video, I guess, just to kind of curtail some of these ridiculous extremes, because I do think people on both sides of the argument are a bit ridiculous about how they view this and how they try to shut down the conversation and stuff. And then you see ZeniMax putting out more updates, more responses to feedback, and it seems like the more response they give, which like people are mad that they weren't giving responses immediately, which is just bonkers. ZeniMax is a huge team. They have a ton of work on their hands. They give us 4 major updates a year, which is more than most MMOs give us. So it's a bit absurd to expect them to respond to all the shit immediately, especially when, you know, PTS hadn't been out for a week yet. People were still like, wow, I haven't responded in a whole 4 days. Like, just give them a sec. Holy Christ. But while I defend them on that, in that regard, about like when they respond to feedback and criticism and all that stuff, it like, you know, because it doesn't, like, obviously this stuff takes time to sift through, and I mean, how long did No Man's Sky take before they started responding to updates? So don't come at me with that. Granted, they're a smaller team, but regardless, then these responses to the feedback started to come out, and I feel like ZeniMax has just lost the plot somewhere. They veered off course. I don't know where the hell they are now. I get this feeling, and this is. It's weird given that I just said that I don't think that the game had a vision for its combat or end game from the get-go, but I don't feel like in the 8 years that the game has been out, I don't think they've developed a vision. And granted, that's just the years the game's been out, because the game actually started development before Skyrim did, as far as I'm aware. So it's bonkers to me that people don't understand game development on any level, on how it works, and B, that ZeniMax doesn't seem to understand their own game and the fans of their own game. So initially, for those who don't know, the Update 35 changes were pretty controversial because they announced that they were going to make light and heavy attacks no longer scale off of your offensive stats and instead just have a flat damage output. And yeah, there's things that buff them, but it's not based on your weapon and spell damage, which why even call it weapon and spell damage if it doesn't affect your weapon and spell attacks? Whatever. Kind of missing the point there, guys. But that by itself is really odd because like I get that their intention was to try and reduce the impact that it actually has on your overall damage output, because depending on the class and spec, you're hitting anywhere from like 15 to 20% of your damage output is light and heavy attacks, mainly light attacks, because light attack weaving is one of the core combat mechanics of ESO. But that just doesn't work. So to give you a bit of a broader perspective on this, basically ZeniMax wants to change Elder Scrolls Online, and they've been doing this for years. They've done it in multiple updates, and this is not a new thing. This is definitely something they've been trying to do for a long time, which is to reduce the skill ceiling and bring up the skill floor so that everyone's more close together in how much damage they can deal, which is absurd because that just ignores tanks and healers. Like, fuck them, right? Like most more casual people I want that don't want to be into the really competitive DPS game, they just play support roles because it's easier. It depends on what you're doing. But your actions per minute don't matter as much as that. I think that's the ultimate takeaway from that. But ZeniMax is just trying to reduce the amount of actions per minute that you need to input in order to be effective at the game. It's just nuts. That whole notion is absurd, and I'll get into a bit more later, but I want to finish talking about the updates. So the other major thing they wanted to do was I believe double the duration of all dots, basically. Every damage over time effect is going to get doubled in duration, and it's going to get nerf in damage, and it's going to get a reduced tick frequency, which is really ridiculous when you look at the state of PvP right now. But the idea for that, the intention for that was to, again, reduce actions per minute needed for high DPS numbers in rotations. But because you're nerfing all dots and reducing their tick frequency, you're making dots almost useless in most fights, most short fights, because they don't do nearly enough damage in the short amount of time that you're going to be in combat, and you're just better off spamming your spammable and light attacks. So nonsense. And it misses the point, I think, of this. Now, since that whole fiasco, I mean, we had a lot of people like, oh, this is going to be the death of the game, which is nonsense. If you want to see what the death of the game looks like, go play Minecraft with this 1.19.1 update. Mojang just straight up hates its fan base, I think, at this point, and they're just like, because they're like, oh, you can be reported for breaking anything, any rule that any server owner has, and you'll be banned from all multiplayer forums of any kind, which is fucking ridiculous. It's that to me is apocalyptic level censorship. That is shit that you just don't do. And they said they don't care about the feedback. They just don't care. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to do anything about it. This is just the way it is. Fuck them. Honestly, fuck Minecraft, fuck Mojang, fuck Microsoft, which is concerning considering Microsoft owns ZeniMax as well now. But I'm not going to try to get any conspiracy theories about what might happen with us now, given that ZeniMax has had a pretty fucking shitty year since Microsoft bought them. I'm going to try and tone down my distaste for all that for the time being, just to focus on this particular conversation about Update 35. Now, since they announced those changes, there's been a lot of backlash that all that shit kind of like flooded in. And then you had Rich Lambert on Twitter dismissing the backlash, telling people that they just needed to trust ZeniMax. And while I get where he's coming from, bad optics, Rich. Sorry, that's not how you treat people who pay your salary, essentially. The veterans of the game that you make, the veteran players who've been there since forever and dedicate lots of time and money into your game, they're not going to be happy if you tell them that their feedback doesn't really matter, that they should just trust you. Granted, ZeniMax has made some controversial decisions before that actually ended up working out, but not every decision they've made has been ubiquitous for the game, and a lot of them have been rolled back before being launched to live. So I don't buy this whole just trust us thing. That is the most bad faith argument you could make. Yeah, we get it. One orb was actually a good idea, and it gave healers a rotation and made their combat interactions make sense. But there's been a lot of other problems that I don't think that ZeniMax seems to really get. Again, the more I look at this update and the more I look at how ZeniMax has handled feedback on the update and stuff, the more I'm starting to think that ZeniMax doesn't play its game anymore. Like, I think before they were out of touch a fair bit, and the class rep program I think was designed to kind of help reel that in a little bit and help them get a better grasp on what it's like to actually be in the midst of things, playing their game. But I think since the class rep program ended and since Tales of Tribute came out, I think they've all just been playing Tales of Tribute and not actually playing the fucking video game. I'm sorry, but Tales of Tribute is a mini game. It is not Elder Scrolls Online. It's Elder Scrolls Legends ported into Elder Scrolls Online, which I'm not mad at. I think it's great. I'm glad it's there. People seem to really like it. Except for the snowballing effects, and there's balance changes coming, so I'm not really worried about that. But I just I look at some of these changes. I mean, because you look back at like Dot Apocalypse from Scalebreaker, where they buffed the power of dots through the fucking ceiling, and I think it was in an attempt to make DPS easier again back then, but what it ended up doing is that it made dots so powerful that there was no point not using them in every form of content. And at the time, one of the only classes with an in-class purge that was viable in PvP was Templar. It made Templar really broken, especially since their main spammable was a dot at the time. Just nonsense. It just makes... I just don't know how they come to these notions and don't realize how goddamn stupid they are. But this one really misses the mark for me on a different level. I mean, first of all, these combat changes to try and bring down your skill ceiling and bring up the skill floor, it's not going to get casual players into endgame. That's not why people don't do endgame, is because it's too hard. Okay? People don't do endgame because they don't enjoy it enough to want to do it. And so what this update is going to do is not actually bring more casual players into endgame. It's going to make more endgame players not want to do it anymore, because it's going to be more frustrating. You're going to bring down damage, and then you're just going to make every fight longer, and people aren't going to want to sell carries anymore, or they're going to charge out the ass for them. So it's going to make it harder on casual players to get the achievements that are associated with endgame content. But then ZeniMax comes out and is like, well, let me pull this up here because this really pisses me off. They admit that that some of their goals were actively competing with each other and not reaching the target audiences in ways they intended. Fine, true. We ultimately want to help raise the floor, reduce the ceiling in regard to DPS output, while simultaneously improving class balance in some problematic areas. So far, this has led to competing changes that have hurt some groups of players, despite us stating that we didn't want to actively harm playstyles with any particular change. We are committed to following through with additional ways to mitigate these issues while still meeting our intended goals. With all that said, in next week's PTS patch, you'll find that we will be reevaluating some of the adjustments to light and heavy attacks so that they are a bit less drastic. Light and heavy attacks will once again scale with their stats, just to a lesser extent than before. Overall, there will still be a nerf on light attack damage, but this will allow us to give a lot more love to heavy attacks and will be less stark of a difference. There will also be a handful of tweaks to some class abilities in next week's PTS patch based on feedback we've received. The majority of these will come in the final PTS patch. Know that the focus of these adjustments will be on Magicka-based Nightblades, Wardens, and Sorcerers. Additionally, for Dungeons and Trials, we'll be reducing the health of all bosses on Veteran difficulty and above in the final PTS patch to account for the overall DPS loss. For Trials specifically, we'll be reducing the health of all champions and bannermen on Veteran difficulty and above. The reduction in health for each boss will vary from encounter to encounter. The results should be that each Dungeon and Trial boss fight will provide a similar challenge to what is on live currently. The Trial bannermen and champions provide a challenge in their own right, and so we felt additional adjustments were warranted. So this is where it really gets to me that they just don't seem to understand what's happening, why this is happening, why we don't like it, and why this is a bad change for the Elder Scrolls Online. First of all, if you're bringing down the DPS ceiling, but also bringing down the health of bosses in Veteran Trials and Veteran difficulty and above in Trials and Dungeons, what's the point of bringing down the damage in the first fucking place? The DPS problems, like, I just don't understand. You're trying to maintain a similar difficulty level to what's on live currently, so why change it at all? You're not encouraging people to get into endgame content. There are two reasons primarily that people get into endgame content. A, because they enjoy the combat and want to challenge themselves, want to improve, and have the time to do so. And B, because there's good rewards. Now, you've already taken away our good rewards. We used to get challenger achievement cosmetics like personalities and skins, but you've taken those away. We haven't gotten those since Wolf Hunter. Wolf Hunter was the last DLC that gave us those, and instead we get our cosmetics from just completing the dungeon on Veteran for the first time, which is ridiculous. The point of Veteran content, the point of having an end game in your game is for people to challenge themselves to get better at the game. But if the game is being made less fun, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to get into endgame if it's not a fun game to play. It's like currently on live, I'm a Stamblade main. I play every class. I have 18 characters at max level. I do play every class, but I do want to focus on Stamblade because it is the class that I play the most in PvE. Stamblade, a full Stamblade rotation, I have 2 bow procs roughly, and I do, so I do roughly 10 light attacks per rotation, and my spammable is, maybe 4 or 5 attacks will be my spammable. That's on live. And the spammables are not back-to-back necessarily. It really depends on which rotation I'm on. But on PTS, because of the duration of the dots being increased so much, I don't have to recast them as often. And so in a parse, I'm doing roughly 20 spammable attacks back to back to back, consecutive. That is not fun gameplay. I didn't get into Elder Scrolls Online's endgame content because I only needed 2 buttons to play it. That's ridiculous to me. It's absolutely absurd that they would have this kind of like complete missing of the plot of what makes their game fun. But again, but to be fair, I think this is an issue that happens with a lot of developers where they're focusing on this vocal minority of players who think they understand balance, who want balance, but they don't actually understand what makes a game what it is. And you can focus on numbers all you want, but at the end of the day, Elder Scrolls Online is not a numbers game and never has been. That's World of Warcraft. If you want to play World of Warcraft, go play that. It is a numbers game. It's not about the mechanics of the fights that you're going into. In Elder Scrolls Online, the mechanics of the fights, the combat is all about the mechanics. If you're not following the mechanics, you don't do well. Which is why a parse monkey is not necessarily going to be good in content just because they can hit a dummy. You should always do parses if you want to get into content because it does prove that you understand your rotation, but and to what degree you understand your rotation, because if your rotation is second nature, you can adapt to mechanics better if it's just muscle memory to do your rotation. But this whole constant focus on balance is missing the whole idea of what makes this game fun, what makes people want to do content. And this raising of the skill floor and reducing of the skill ceiling, or at least the DPS floor and DPS ceiling, is so baffling and stupid. What's the point in having an end game if it's barely different from the base game? What is the point of veteran difficulty if you're gonna just make it as easy to get into as normal difficulty? You're defeating the purpose of having added Kharlan with the first fucking update. Are you kidding me? How did you miss this? How have you lost the plot that hard that you don't even know what attracts people to your game in the first fucking place? And this is ultimately the problem. Everyone's hung up on the balance issues. Everyone's hung up on how bad the balance is and how, oh, this is a slap in the face to veterans, or this is a slap in the face to casuals, because it is. It's not helping anybody. It's not good for anybody. And it's not wrong to be focused on the balance of the game and as a result of these changes, but also what should come first is that the game is enjoyable to play for lots of people for various reasons, which is why adding things like Tales of Tribute and companions and stuff is a good idea, because that expands on what people can enjoy about the game. Those are good changes. This constant trying to help casual players who don't want to put the time in or don't have the time to put in, trying to help them get into end game content, into veteran content, makes no fucking sense. It's not how it works. You don't see Capcom trying to make Legendary Dark Knight difficulty in DMC5 easier to access for people. What kind of sense does that make? If I like the game, I'll play the game on whatever difficulty I feel most comfortable on. If I want to challenge myself, I'll raise the difficulty. But a casual player who doesn't have time to master the complex systems and mechanics within Devil May Cry isn't going to play on Legendary Dark Knight difficulty. They're not going to go into the settings and switch it to Turbo. It's just not going to happen because they're not enjoying the mechanics. If they don't enjoy the mechanics, they're not going to challenge themselves. Or if they don't have time to master the mechanics, they're not going to challenge themselves on them. It makes no sense. It's a complete missing of why people play video games. This is the most basic shit about development. How do you not understand this? And you can tell by looking through the patch notes, if you've played any sort of content recently, PvE, PvP, doesn't matter. If you've played any sort of main content lately, you look through the patch notes and you're wondering if they even play the fucking game. I heard it, I think it was in a live stream. I heard one of the developers talk about how they're trying to, they want to support attrition builds in PvP. Why? Attrition builds are not fun to fight against. What's the point in having class diversity and build diversity and stuff? You sacrifice your survivability for a bit more damage. If someone can just build a DK who's completely can hold block permanently, be basically impervious to all incoming damage for a while until their ultimate's up, and then they just one-shot you. And they don't have to try because the class is broken. They're not, I don't think they play it. I don't think they understand. How is corrosive armor not one of the most broken ultimates in the fucking game according to them? How is fossilized not one of the most broken fucking abilities in the game? And then you look at some of the changes to classes that are to promote class diversity or class identity or whatever. Now, as a Nightblade main, the updates that were on PTS initially really pissed me off because they buffed the fuck out of my class for no reason and in the wrong areas. On live right now in PvP with 25k resistances and 2000 crit resist, 30k health, I'm getting hit by surprise attacks. The Nightblade spammable, I'm being hit by it for 10k. 8 to 10k consistently. And they're gonna buff it for more class identity, it's a spammable that stuns people from the back, applies an armor penetration debuff or an armor debuff. Like, it doesn't need any more class identity. The fact that it's in the shadow skill line alone is great class identity because activating it means you get your major resolve uptime. It's good. It's one of the best spammables in the game. You don't need to give it any more class identity. It's ridiculous. I don't know what kind of crack they're smoking over there at ZeniMax, but that's not a change we need. How about you actually play PvP and notice that everyone can dodge roll for almost no cost, and dodge rolling is really strong if you can spam it, because a lot of classes rely exclusively on single target attacks to survive, to deal damage. And single target attacks are the most dodgeable. And this is where AoEs come in. So you have Templars, whose spammable is an AoE, and makes it one of the most broken spammables in the game, probably the most broken spammable in the game when you think about it, because ultimately, in a game that requires you to have a target within your cursor in order for you to fire certain attacks, any of your single target attacks, to have one class that has a spammable that hits multiple times in an AoE, does not require a target to be fired, is one of the most absurd and bad design decisions I've ever fucking heard of. Like, it's nonsense to me that that's how that works. Like, if you're gonna make it like that, then why don't my light attacks have the ability to smack people out of stealth? If they're close enough and within the swing radius of my fucking light attack, why aren't they being hit by it? It makes no sense. It's inconsistent and it's frustrating gameplay. I recently made a Magplar too. I have a Magplar and a Stamplar now, and I have to say that's the laziest class to play. Like I play Magplar in PvP during the event right now, and I don't even have to try. It is so brain dead easy to just survive everything, sustain through everything, and then murder somebody in a quarter of a second out of nowhere. It's bonkers how simple it is. And then you have classes like Nightblade, which used to be the high skill level class, high risk, high reward. You're really squishy, but you can really kick somebody's ass. Now you can't, unless it's less rewarding than it used to be. But again, this is just a few things that I've personally noticed that really make me think that ZeniMax doesn't understand their game. And they don't have a vision, an overall arcing vision for what Elder Scrolls Online's gameplay should be, what it should offer us, the player. And I mean, that was becoming more apparent when Blackwood came out and there was no new class. And then when Tile came out and there was again no new class, despite the fact that these are some of the highest demanded things for Elder Scrolls to bring more longevity to the gameplay and experience. But you don't get longevity from making your game easier. We didn't come here to play Kirby's Epic Yarn. We don't want our hands held throughout the entire game. You scare people off, and you've already scared a shitload of people off. A lot of the veterans are just wanting to leave because you don't understand your game anymore. You don't understand that we don't want it to be super easy. We just want it to be fun. And again, it defeats the purpose of having veteran difficulty content if you're just going to make it all as easy as the normal content, or roughly, by bringing together the skill ceiling and skill floor. It makes no goddamn sense. What's the point in having these achievements? What's the point in what value will TikTok Tormentor have if the game is really easy to get into now for the end game? I mean, while I don't personally like the idea of people selling carries, it's an inevitable part of MMOs anyways, and it's like you're just going to make that less appealing for people. You're going to make it less appealing for people to want to do, and therefore endgame content is going to be less appealing overall for people to do. The endgame community is just going to dissipate because there's no point. And I get that there's toxicity in the endgame community, but that's true for any competitive community. But there's also toxicity in our casual community. Our casuals are sitting here bitching about, world bosses not being soloable, which they are if you build correctly. But if you're a casual player, why aren't you in a social guild? Why aren't you in a guild that's going to help you do these sorts of these pieces of content? Maybe ZeniMax should be focused on making all content stay relevant rather than just making everything easier and brain dead. If I wanted to play Templar all the time, I'd play Templar all the time. But I don't. I play Nightblade because it's an active combat system. It's a lot of fun for me. It's fast paced, and Nightblade is fun to play. But next patch it won't be if they keep these dots the same way. It's fucking disgusting. And Rich Lambert with his snarky comment on Twitter, that shit needs to be reeled in. That's bad optics. And Rich, I understand where you're coming from. Like I said, with the whole trust us thing, but you also need to, trust us as well. We're the ones who fucking play your game. We're the ones who pay money for it. You get paid to make it. That money comes from us as well, but whatever. I just don't think ZeniMax is really understanding it right now, and I think they need to sit back. And people are trying to say, "Oh no, this is better," because they're rolling back the changes on light attacks slightly, little bit, tiny bit, but they're not. They're not rolling back the intention of these changes, which is a bad intention to have. And then you have the opposite side of the conversation with people being like doomsday fucking theorists saying, oh, well, this is going to be the death of the game. Well, those people are a bit toxic too, and they need to back the hell off. It's not the death of the game. It's just a really bad change. And it's a really bad look for the company to not understand the game that they made and why people play it. That's a bad look. I don't know why the class program ended either. I've heard a lot of people blame that for these baffling changes, but these baffling changes have been around for a long time. This stupid intention to reduce the DPS ceiling and raise the DPS floor, this has been around for a long time at ZeniMax, and it's bad. It's been bad for a long time, and I really don't think they should be focusing on that. They should be focusing on making the game fun and keeping it fun and keeping people wanting to play it continuously. But then you have people who are trying to shut down the conversation. Like, oh, these changes aren't a big deal. Who cares? Well, I care. I pay money for this game. I like this game a lot. And I don't want the game to become something I don't want to play anymore. Because Elder Scrolls Online is genuinely one of my favorite games of all time. It's my favorite MMO by far. I've played a lot of MMOs. And I'm not going to name other MMOs often. It's just, I don't feel like it's fair to do comparisons. Since ESO is really unique as far as MMOs go, and even theme park MMOs go. But this is the game that's kept my attention the longest. I like the combat the most of any other game, and I do genuinely believe that ZeniMax wants to do right by us, and does care about us as a community, unlike Mojang. But I think that they're struggling to grasp how to do it. I don't think they understand what it is that we really want from this game, and I don't think a lot of the players really understand what they want from this game. They keep getting hung up on numbers and balance, and while those things are important, again, these changes to reduce DPS for no reason when it doesn't, it flies in the face of everything that's been established by the game up to this point. They're ultimately also just making the game brain dead and a lot less fun to play, and I don't want to hang around for that. I don't want to see my favorite MMO become boring, because there's been a few patches where it has been boring. Like, I haven't played my Magblade in 2 or 3 patches now because I just find that the Magblade kit just doesn't feel good to use anymore. And I'd have to make a whole analysis video breaking down why that is, where that change came into play. But like, I've only been playing my Standblade because I hit like a train. It feels good to hit like a train. Like, I outparse most people I've ever encountered, and I don't even run the meta sets. I'm running dual wield and bow, which is not what's currently meta. And this is another place where ZeniMax seems to miss the mark. Is they're making all these changes, and then they don't realize that every single spec of DPS in PvE content right now is using a two-hander. even Magicka builds. Why? That's not good build diversity. That's not good balance. Granted, the endgame communities know better because they're out here trying to say that people can only use certain sets and certain abilities and stuff in order to be effective in PvE content, which is ridiculous because build diversity is really good in Elder Scrolls. And obviously, I play a dual wield bow build, which is not meta. It's not best in slot, and I still crush people in damage consistently, just because I know what I'm doing, just because I know how to follow mechanics while also maximizing my damage output. And that's taken so much time and to learn, and I've increased my skills so much, and then they're just going to make it boring to play. They're just going to make it meaningless for me to have learned all this shit. It is insulting in a way that they just don't understand what we want from this game. But yeah, I think the ultimate takeaway from this is that the conversation has steered so far from what the real point is. The real problem with these changes is their intention. What they're trying to do is not a good thing for this game. It's not healthy for any game. I don't think it's the death of this game, but I do think ZeniMax needs to back up and reevaluate what values it has for the vision of this game and its combat, because making it easy is not good for anyone. It's going to make it boring. And of course, there are outliers, and I get that. Like, Planesbreaker is one of those things where there's only a couple of groups that have ever gotten it, and they don't want to share their secrets. They want to be toxic and sell carries at ridiculous prices, and I don't stand with those people. And if you're watching this video and you're one of the Planesbreaker title owners who does that, go to a different game. Seriously, I don't think you belong in the Elder Scrolls community. We have one of the best MMO communities in the history of the fucking genre, and we don't like people like you here. I'm only really speaking for myself here. Well, there's guilds I'm in too that would agree, but yeah, if you're one of those types of people, yeah, go away. Genuinely. And that kind of toxicity that casuals complain about from the endgame community, that's a valid complaint on certain levels. Although I will say, overall, our endgame community is pretty good. Obviously, there's going to be your exceptions, but generally, as a rule, I find that the endgame community in ESO is pretty good. And if you disagree, I highly recommend going over to Black Desert Online, ask a question in Gen Chat, and then come back to Elder Scrolls and tell me how you feel, because I really don't think that you understand what toxicity looks like in an endgame community if you think ESO is toxic. And like I said, I'm not trying to dismiss that there is toxicity. There absolutely is. Clearly, the Planesbreaker people, a lot of people in I mean, there are guilds, and this was kind of a disheartening realization for me. But there are guilds in ESO's endgame community for PvE who, on their Discords, have a wall of shame where they openly shame people who dislike them for toxicity. They openly shame people who don't like that they sell carries or disagree with how elitist they are about what sets people can use, that sort of thing. And I don't think there's any place for that kind of shaming at all. Not every person that they disagree with is in the right. Obviously, there are people who are like, "Oh, parsing is stupid. You shouldn't have to parse to get into endgame content." Yes, you should. It's actually very important. Is it the be-all end-all of being a good endgame player? No. But to say that to just disregard the traditions and the nature of endgame communities entirely because you think you know better is absurd. You clearly don't want to get into endgame if you don't want to respect what endgame really is and what it really requires in order to be trustworthy, would be a good way to put it. People didn't want to take me into VCR because I was a Standblade, and Standblades just weren't really good at that. You have to prove yourself. You have to prove yourself to be capable of doing those things. Once you've proven yourself to be comfortable on your class and to be able to do stuff like that, people will take you. But you have to prove it. I've been lazy. granted, I have VCR clears. I have multiple VCR clears on my Standblade. My first time in there, we didn't wipe. We had 8 total deaths, and I've never done it before. That's kind of my take on the toxicity in the community. I have a lot more concepts I'd like to cover at some point, maybe if I get around to it. I've been doing a lot of other work lately. I've been getting into 3D modeling and animation quite a bit more heavily lately. So I've been doing that. I might do more streams on that if I feel like it. But I have there's a lot of other design decisions that ZeniMax has made that I think are baffling and need a little bit of exploration. Like, for example, how there's a lot of normal difficulty dungeons and trials that don't teach you the mechanics for veteran to get you prepared for them. Like Cloud Rest is a great example, actually. I don't even think normal Cloud Rest and veteran Cloud Rest are the same trial. They don't feel anything alike. Normal Cloud Rest, you just accidentally kill everything. When you're a player at my level, or even if you just have 2 players at my level who are in a normal Cloud Rest group, and then you crush the entire thing, and people don't even see mechanics because you killed the thing so fast. That said, it's a normal trial. It's there for grinding. You don't want it to take 19 million years to clear. And that's ultimately another design decision I'd like to explore. How ZeniMax learned, I thought they had learned from their mistakes with dungeons like Vaults of Madness, where, I mean, that's a base game dungeon. That's from very early, and the quest in that dungeon takes so fucking long. Like, if you're trying to grind up a new character and you get Vaults of Madness as your normal dungeon, you might as well just quit, because the team's not going to stick around to wait for the fucking dialogue. And I thought ZeniMax had learned from that, because most of the DLC dungeons that were released after that didn't have these long dialogue scenes that made people wait around doing nothing, hearing the same dialogue they've heard on 17 other characters, so that they could continue just trying to get their fucking experience. It burns through scrolls, it burns through food, it's annoying. It's nonsense. But then some of the recent dungeons have done the same shit, and you're like, and they're not as bad as Vaults, but like, don't you realize that this game is about grinding? It's an MMO. It's you've reduced the grind in a lot of ways, but again, if you're having to do the same content over and over and fucking over again because you have multiple characters and you're just trying to get some levels, this is a waste of my time. I'm sorry. Your writing is good, ZeniMax. I really do like the stories in Elder Scrolls Online, and I don't pay attention to all of them because fuck the Eldmary Dominion, but I do think that there's really good writing, and I'm really happy to see it. I only need to see it the one time, though. You know what I mean? I don't mind seeing it maybe a second or third time, but it should be totally optional. But the skill points are impossible to pass up because you need them. You need so many skill points to do things. I'm sorry. Especially with how they've changed the armor classes and how you need one piece of every armor at least, and you need all the passives, and just At any rate, the main thing I want people to take away from this video is that people need to stop exaggerating this shit, hyperbolizing the crap out of these sorts of changes. Try to be objective and notice that worse things have happened in other games, and that haven't killed those games. So having these crazy doomsday, like, end of game conspiracy theories, or like saying that ZeniMax is doing a bait and switch, or saying that ZeniMax doesn't care about us, I think are disingenuous arguments and aren't beneficial to the dialogue that we're trying to have about the state of the game and where we want it to go. I also think that a lot of these toxic casuals who were trying to shut down the conversations entirely, be like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. Oh, everybody's all butthurt. I get that there's some people who are extreme, and those people are you don't want to hear from anymore, but the conversations do need to happen. And so shutting them down is not beneficial for anyone. People also like to try to call ZeniMax greedy because they want to pay their employees. I can't get behind that. I'm sorry. ZeniMax has given away so much free shit, and I do think on some levels they kind of get greedy from time to time, but as a whole, I'm pretty behind a lot of the things that they do as a company. And like I said, I do think they genuinely care about us and want to listen to our concerns. I just don't think they know how sometimes to actually deliver on that sort of feedback. And again, I don't think they have a vision for this game right now. And I do think they need to go back to the drawing board a little bit. And Rich Lambert, you need to get off Twitter whenever there's a big update. I genuinely don't think that tweet should be let go of anytime soon. I think people should probably keep reminding you that was a really fucked up thing to say. And because I don't know how, in what world you would have thought that would have made anything better. But really unfortunate that you went there. But that said, that's about it for me. I know this was a long video. Yeah, I'm talking 45 fucking minutes. It's clear that I'm passionate, I guess. But yeah, ultimately, I just want people to steer their conversations about these sorts of changes back to, is the game still going to be fun to play? Is ZeniMax really listening? Asking important questions. Why did the class rep program end? Why don't we have that anymore? Why do we have a Nightblade main as a combat designer? There's a lot of valid questions, but there's also just the overreactions. Because Rich Lambert was right about there being knee-jerk reactions that were uncalled for. Totally agree with that. Commenting on it as the creative director is not a good idea. I don't think you should be doing that publicly. But these knee-jerk reactions, these overreactions people need to take a sec, reel it in. Not the end of the world, I promise. You'd be closer to talking about the death of the game if you were talking about their shitty terms of service and how poorly written it is and how poorly enforced it is. Literally, I get banned for having a character named Gomez Adams, who is technically in the public domain. Banned. I say banned. I mean suspended. And yet I see people with the name Yennefer Vengerberg running around just fine, unmolested, as it were. God, that's an old school term. But everyone, please try to be kind to each other. We all are here because we want to play this game and enjoy it. And try to be nice to the developers. They are working hard. And when they add things to the Crowdstorm, it's because they want to continue to pay their employees and make money. And let them. They recently doubled the size of their staff. They didn't hit them with a enlargement ray. They actually increased the number of people that work for them. But try to be nice to them. And ZeniMax, it goes for you too. Try to be nice to us. Take a note out of Gina's book. She's a hardworking person who has to deal with some of the worst parts of the community. And I apologize on behalf of all of us, Gina. If you're watching this, you didn't do anything wrong. You're trying to help. You're just trying to get the feedback to the team and also try to quell our anger. And I appreciate you. A lot of us do. I think that you're doing your best and try to keep it up. But guys, remember, the devs are only human. And also remember, the players are only human. Our fucking toxic shit is just one of our flaws. But ZeniMax, we love you. Rich, I love you. I know I've ragged on you a lot, but you really needed to hear some backlash from that fucking comment on Twitter. But I do like you. I think you're a great creative director. And Matt Furor, also, I love him. I think he's awesome. The Hammer, as he used to be called. So thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully I'll be able to share more of my work, my actual work, soon. And I don't want to edit this, but I have to. Okay. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.